Nerd morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Dracula. This was written in 1897 by Bram Stoker. Now, I absolutely love this story. I think it's very interesting, it's chilling, and if you like paranormal stories and supernatural stories, really this has a big foundation in the medium, in the genre, and I think it's a must read. So Dracula tells the story of Count Dracula, who lives in Transylvania, and him moving to England and the experiences there and the people who ultimately have to combat him. It's in an epistolary format, which means that there is letters, diary entries, newspaper clippings, ship logs. All these are combined together to tell the story. And I think that's a really interesting medium. It's an interesting style to tell a story. And I am really amazed about the level of depth of feeling and emotion that we get from these various accounts. Also, with that, we have multiple perspectives as different individuals write and tell their pieces of their story. So the story is, I think, chilling. I think it's exciting. I think it's really, really stood the test of time. And, Dracula himself, he is the father of vampires. And so there is so much there for people who like vampires. I think there's some value in looking back at what this vampire is able to do versus what other ones are able to do. In fact, I made a video on that, and I'll drop a link for that below in the description. And I am just so interested at what this character, Count Dracula, is able to do and why he does it. Okay, so I'm going to dive in to this story, and so we're going to have some spoilers here. Before we dive in all the way, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more videos like this, and let's get going. So the story starts out with Jonathan Harker's journal as he goes to Transylvania. He is a solicitor, and he's hired to aid Count Dracula in his transition to go to England. Count Dracula has purchased some land and is wanting to be able to understand customs and rules and legalities in order to be able to operate comfortably in this new land. And Jonathan Harker, he goes there and is super creeped out for lots of reasons. For the lack of servants that he has in there, it seems that Dracula is the coachman, he creates the meals, he does everything, and he's very independent in this gigantic castle. Jonathan's told he can go anywhere he'd like as long as their places are not locked. Well, he finds out that pretty much everywhere is locked, and he's starting to feel more and more trapped. As he goes about, he discovers things like Count Dracula never has a meal with him, he never sees him eat, they are always doing their business late at night, and he never sees him really in the daytime. And later he starts to discover that Count Dracula climbs on walls and goes on other places that are very unnatural and unhuman. He meets the three vampire sisters, and they actually want to eat him, but Dracula stops them, ultimately saying that he's mine, and he discovers that he truly is a prisoner here. Ultimately, Dracula leaves and he escapes. We shift the story from here to some ship logs where Dracula is traveling to England by ship. He transforms himself as a great dog because Dracula has shape-shifting abilities, and he slowly kills off the crew members until they reach the harbor and no one is left alive. The dog jumps off and rushes off, and everyone's freaking out about this. It's in the newspaper, and there's different records of this. Shifting again, we meet Jonathan Harker's fiancée Mina and her friend Lucy. They're good friends, they're really excited and young and happy, and they're just really likable individuals. Lucy is proposed to by three different men. Dr. John Stewart is a psychological doctor. He works in a ward, and he has some peculiar patients like Renfield, who eats bugs and he's trying to consume life. Quincy Morris is a really interesting character. He has some American slang and he's this cowboy type character. And then Arthur Holmeswood is the son of a lord and a really stalwart gentleman. Arthur Holmwood is the individual whom Lucy accepts the proposal, and they all stay friends despite Lucy rejecting Dr. Stewart as well as Quincy Morris in favor of Arthur Holmwood. As the story progresses, we learn that Dracula has been starting to feed on Lucy. She is being put in a trance and being fed on, and so she's not really aware of the experience, and Dracula continually returns and feeds off of her as she's getting weaker and weaker. Also, there are concerns because she's becoming forgetful, she's sleepwalking, and she's experiencing symptoms of dementia. Dr. John Stewart, who is still a close friend to her, is super worried and has been acting as her physician. After not being able to figure out what's going wrong, why she's losing this blood, and where it's going, he contacts his friend Abraham Van Helsing. Abraham Van Helsing is a doctor, but he also is a very knowledgeable scientist and a person who knows more things than he generally lets on. They do a blood transfer, giving her some necessary blood to keep her moving and to keep her alive. Van Helsing requires her to wear garlic around her neck, and they put it around the bedroom all the time, and they keep the doors on the windows shut and locked. They're doing everything they can in order to keep out any attackers or anything that's going on. And Dr. John Stewart, he doesn't really understand what's going on. Van Helsing isn't saying anything, and in part that's because he doesn't really know everything himself. He just has some suspicions, and he's trying to be able to figure it out, but he seems to be aware of things of the occult, things of monsters, things of vampires, and so he, though that's not his expertise, he seems to know some things and is going with all what he knows until he's able to figure out things specifically and to be sure. They also keep Lucy watched at all times, so when she's sleeping, they're trying to have somebody in the room with her or in the house in order to be able to make sure that she's safe. And again, none of the other individuals really know what Van Helsing is trying to do, but they trust him, they recognize him as a good person, and they're doing those things to protect Lucy. But since not everyone really understands, Lucy's mother goes in one evening and takes out the garlic and opens the windows thinking that it's just stuffy in there, and Lucy is drained even further. They have to go and do more blood transfusions just to keep Lucy alive. Lucy's been having difficulty sleeping, and she is checked on by Lucy's mother. Lucy's mother stays there and cuddles up next to her, and they both fall asleep. Well, that night, a wolf comes in and attacks them, and Lucy's mother dies. The wolf transforms to Dracula, who feeds on Lucy again. And tragically, Lucy soon dies. This was like so shocking to me when I first read this book, because like halfway through this story, everything that we've been trying to do for this story so far is keeping Lucy alive, keeping her safe, and she dies. And that was just such a shock to me. It was kind of like when you watch Psycho and halfway through the story the main character dies, and that's exactly what happens here. It's super sad. We bury her, and all of these people who have been here are just mourning this terrible loss. Van Helsing investigates more. He still has some suspicions and some concerns, and while he's continuing his investigation, we start hearing of attacks from what's known as the Bloofer Lady. It's a slang for the beautiful lady. And these kids are being attacked and gone missing and losing blood, and there's some really big concerns in the area about the Bloofer Lady. Well, Van Helsing and Dr. Stewart find Lucy's tomb. They watch and they find that she is herself a vampire and is the Bloofer Lady. With the help of Quincy Morris as well as Arthur Holmwood, they find her, kill her, and lay her to rest. This was like a really bittersweet moment because They've done all this work to try to save her, and then they ultimately have to kill her vampire self in order to be able to put herself truly to rest. Mina, who's Lucy's friend and who was the fiancée of Jonathan Harker, get married. So that's super happy. We're excited about that. Mina and all of the men, they try to take on Dracula. So Mina helps out by starting to collect all the documents, all the accounts, all the stories that they were able to find on Dracula and the different experiences that each of them have had, and ultimately tries to make a compilation of all of these experiences. So while we're reading all the different stories that are being collected in the book, really what we're reading is the collected work that Mina Harker wrote. After they collect all this different information, they go and try to take on Dracula. Van Helsing finds that he has these boxes with the Transylvanian soil that he needs in order to be able to stay in England and also in order to be able to regenerate his powers. They find all the different various Transylvanian soil deposits, and they use the sacramental wafers and put them in there, which renders them useless. They find out that Dr. John Stewart's patient has been giving Dracula information and has been in contact and in service to Dracula, which is some things that we've been alluded to and hinted to throughout the story. But ultimately, this is dangerous for them because as they've been attacking Dracula, Dracula finds out and he starts to go after them. Particularly, he goes after Mina. Dracula feeds off of Mina at least 3 times that we find in the story, and as well forces Mina to feed off of his blood, which, if she dies, then will turn her into a vampire. So she's cursed with vampirism, and Van Helsing attempts to bless Mina. And when they do this blessing, he's using the sacramental wafer, and he touches it to her forehead, and it burns her and leaves a scar. So she sees that she's cursed and actually has this physical representation of her being cursed. But because of her cursing, there's a connection between her and Dracula. Dracula has been using that to kind of connect with and be aware of the group, and Van Helsing attempts to be able to use that through hypnosis to help track him. They find that Dracula is escaping from England and is heading back to Transylvania. Van Helsing and the group travel over to Transylvania and try to get there before Dracula. While in Transylvania, Van Helsing finds the 3 vampire sisters and kills them. So they're done, they're out of the picture, and we have one left vampire to really contend with, that being Count Dracula. So they find that a group of individuals has been transporting Dracula, and they try to head him off. The group has split up, and they're trying to surround and head off the group that's carrying and transporting the coffin of Dracula. While Dracula is being transported, he's in the death sleep. And while he's in the death sleep, he is not able to move or to respond or really to be fully aware of the things that are going on. This is how Van Helsing found and caught the 3 vampire sisters in order to be able to kill them, and they're trying to be able to catch Dracula before the sun goes down and be able to stop him while they have the advantage. They have to fight with the group of individuals that has been transporting Dracula, and Jonathan Harker dives in and cuts Dracula's neck, and Quincy Morris stabs him in the heart. Quincy Morris dies because of the fight, and later Mina and Jonathan Harker name their child Quincy. Everyone who's alive seems to have gotten married and have happy lives, and that's kind of where the story wraps up. Again, I really, really like this story. I think it's super worthwhile. It's super interesting. It's one that I think is a must-read, particularly for people who are interested in reading or writing other supernatural or paranormal stories. This is an essential monster story for you to read. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next time.